Remember, Red, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I will be hoping that this letter finds you, and finds you well.
In 1994, a quiet, prison-set drama slipped into theaters and changed movie history forever. The Shawshank Redemption wasn't a blockbuster, didn't feature explosions, and opened to mild reviews. Yet over time, it became a film that transcended generations, a story whispered from one viewer to another, like a secret everyone eventually had to hear. Its haunting message about hope and human endurance carved a place in cinema that few films ever reach. But behind those cold prison walls and heartfelt monologues was a world of chaos, obsession, and sheer filmmaking endurance. From cruel shooting conditions to mysterious accidents, hidden references, and near-impossible challenges, the making of The Shawshank Redemption was as intense and emotional as the story itself. It's a film that nearly failed but rose to become the most beloved movie of all time, ranked #1 on IMDb and eternally etched into cinematic memory. Here are 20 weird facts about The Shawshank Redemption, 1994, that prove sometimes the real story happens behind the camera. Fact 1. The movie that nobody watched. When The Shawshank Redemption premiered in 1994, it wasn't the masterpiece everyone claims today. In fact, almost nobody saw it. The film bombed at the box office, earning barely enough to cover its production cost. Competing against Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump, it was quickly forgotten by theaters. The title didn't help either. Audiences had no idea what Shawshank even meant. Some thought it was a war movie, others thought it was about a ship. But behind closed doors, critics whispered that this was something special, a film with the power to stay with you. It wasn't until the film's VHS release that everything changed. Rental stores couldn't keep up with the demand. People who had never seen it in theaters were suddenly calling it life-changing. Like Andy crawling through that sewer pipe to freedom, the movie slowly emerged from the shadows and into cinematic immortality. Fact 2. The author didn't expect it to succeed. The Shawshank Redemption was based on Stephen King's 1982 novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. King had sold the rights for just $1, a symbolic gesture he often offered to film students and new directors. Frank Darabont, the film's director, was one of those dreamers. King expected little from the adaptation. In his mind, prison dramas were doomed to fail commercially. But when he finally saw the finished movie, he was stunned. King reportedly sent Darabont a personal letter saying it was simply incredible and thanked him for staying true to the spirit of the story. Years later, King revealed that it remains one of his favorite adaptations of his work, and he never cashed that $1 check. He framed it instead, calling it the best bargain he ever made. Fact 3. The opening scene took 9 hours to film. That haunting opening sequence, Andy Dufresne sitting silently in his car, listening to music before the murder scene, looks effortless. But it took nearly 9 hours to shoot. The problem was light. Director Frank Darabont wanted just the right atmosphere, not too bright, not too dark. The crew spent hours adjusting angles, headlights, and shadows to create the exact emotional tone. Tim Robbins, sitting inside that car, had to remain motionless for take after take. The final result is one of the most powerful opening scenes in cinema. Calm, tragic, and mysterious. You could almost feel the weight of fate pressing down before a single word is spoken. That intensity came at a cost: patience, precision, and exhaustion. Fact 4. Morgan Freeman's iconic line was a mistake. When Red says,
"Maybe it's because I'm Irish."
"Maybe it's because I'm Irish," most viewers chuckle. It's an ironic line because Morgan Freeman obviously isn't Irish. But here's the twist. In Stephen King's original story, Red was indeed a red-haired Irishman. Darabont changed the casting after meeting Freeman and realizing he was perfect for the role. When it came time to film that line, the director decided to keep it in as a nod to the book. Freeman delivered it with his trademarked calm humor, and it became an iconic moment of irony. It's a tiny detail that connects King's original imagination with the film's new direction, a bridge between two worlds of storytelling that fans still love to point out. Fact 5. The maggots were vetted by the Humane Society. Remember Brooks feeding a little maggot to his pet crow, Jake? That simple moment caused a surprising amount of behind-the-scenes debate. Animal rights representatives from the Humane Society were on set and insisted that the maggot be certified as already dead before it could be fed to the bird. Yes, even the maggot needed clearance. So the crew actually froze a maggot to ensure it was no longer alive, just to satisfy the ethical standards. It may sound strange, but it's a testament to how carefully regulated Hollywood productions can be, even when the scene lasts less than 3 seconds. The result is a small but unforgettable piece of cinematic realism that viewers still remember. Fact 6. The sewage scene was made of chocolate. One of the most unforgettable moments in movie history is Andy's escape through that disgusting sewage pipe. But here's the secret: that wasn't sewage at all. The filmmakers used a mixture of chocolate syrup, sawdust, and water to simulate the look and texture of human waste. The smell, however, was real, at least to the actors. Andy had to crawl through hundreds of feet of this concoction during filming, surrounded by stench and humidity. After hours of filming, Robbins reportedly refused to eat chocolate for several weeks. The tunnel scene might have looked revolting, but it's also a perfect metaphor. Andy crawling through filth to reach freedom. Sometimes, even the worst conditions create the most powerful art. Fact 7. Morgan Freeman's baseball scene cost blood and sweat. There's a scene where Red is tossing a baseball while talking to the new inmates. Seems simple, right? But it took 9 hours to shoot, and Morgan Freeman never stopped throwing that ball once. By the end of the day, Freeman's arm was swollen and sore. The next morning, he showed up to set with his arm in a sling, but he never complained. The crew was stunned by his dedication. That effortless calm you see on screen came from a place of real pain. Freeman made it look easy, but behind that relaxed performance was a man who literally threw himself into the role. Fact 8. The poster switch had a secret meaning. Throughout the movie, Andy hides his escape tunnel behind posters of famous actresses: Rita Hayworth, Monroe, and Raquel Welch. But few know that each woman represented a deeper layer of symbolism. Rita Hayworth stood for beauty and illusion. Monroe represented fame and desire. And Welch symbolized ultimate freedom. Frank Darabont carefully chose these posters to show Andy's psychological journey. What seemed like simple wall decorations actually charted his spiritual escape long before his physical one.
Fact 9. Clancy Brown refused to hit anyone. Clancy Brown, who played the sadistic Captain Hadley, is terrifying in the film. But in reality, Brown refused to harm anyone during filming. When Darabont suggested realistic physical scenes, Brown declined unless stunt doubles were used. He later revealed that he didn't want audiences confusing the character's cruelty with real violence. Ironically, that restraint made Hadley even more believable, a man whose power was psychological more than physical. It's proof that sometimes the best villains are the ones who know exactly when to stop.
Fact 10. The prison was real and haunted. The Ohio State Reformatory where The Shawshank Redemption was filmed was a real prison built in 1896. The facility had witnessed decades of violence, disease, and death. Crew members often reported strange occurrences during filming: lights flickering, sudden cold spots, even distant footsteps when the set was empty. Some refused to enter certain wings at night. Today, the prison is a tourist site known for ghost tours. Visitors claim to hear doors slamming and whispers echoing in the hallways. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the place certainly carries the weight of its history, one that bled into every frame of Shawshank.
Fact 11. Freeman's son played young Red. In the scene where young Red appears in his mugshot, that's not Morgan Freeman digitally de-aged. It's his real-life son, Alfonso Freeman. Alfonso also had a small cameo later as one of the prisoners shouting, "Fresh fish," at the newcomers. The casting wasn't just clever, it was emotional. Freeman later said it was a proud moment to share even a small piece of cinematic history with his son. It's one of those beautiful Easter eggs that makes Shawshank even more personal for the people who created it. Fact 12. Tim Robbins studied prisoners in secret. To prepare for the role of Andy Dufresne's, Tim Robbins spent time visiting real prisons, observing inmate behavior and routines. He even ate meals with them, trying to understand their mannerisms and emotional state. Robbins noticed that long-term prisoners often spoke slowly and moved cautiously, conserving energy as if time itself had slowed down. He incorporated that into Andy's personality. Calm, deliberate, almost serene. It's why Andy feels so real. He doesn't act like a man just playing a part. He acts like someone who's lived that isolation for years. Fact 13. The movie's ending almost never happened. That iconic reunion scene on the beach in Zitnaweho, the one that leaves everyone teary-eyed, wasn't supposed to be there. Darabont originally wanted to end the film with Red riding the bus, leaving the final meeting to the audience's imagination. But test audiences demanded closure. They needed to see Andy and Red again. The studio listened, and Darabont reluctantly filmed the final beach scene. Ironically, that one compromise became one of the most emotional endings in movie history, proof that sometimes the heart knows better than the head. Fact 14. The rock hammer almost didn't exist. The tiny rock hammer that Andy uses to carve his chess pieces and dig his tunnel was inspired directly from Stephen King's novella, but prop designers nearly changed it to a different tool, thinking the hammer looked too weak. Darabont fought to keep it authentic, arguing that its smallness made Andy's feat even more impressive. He wanted audiences to think, how could something so tiny create freedom? The hammer became a symbol of patience and faith, two things that define both Andy and the film itself. Fact 15. The Bible hid a real message. When Warden Norton opens Andy's hollowed-out Bible and finds the hammer inside, there's a note that reads, "Salvation lies within." It's a perfect twist, both biblical and literal. But here's the hidden layer. That specific page was chosen by the prop department because it contains verses about redemption and freedom. It wasn't random. Darabont personally approved the choice, calling it the soul of the film hidden in one object. It's a reminder that even the smallest details in Shawshank carry spiritual weight. Every page, every object, every word chosen with purpose. Fact 16. The extras were actual inmates. During early shooting, the production hired real former prisoners as background actors. Many had served time in the same facility decades earlier. They were brought in for authenticity, and their reactions to the filming were chilling. Some said stepping back into those cells brought back painful memories. Others felt it was a kind of therapy, seeing their past transformed into art. Their presence gave the film a realism that no Hollywood set could ever fake. The shadows, the looks, the quiet fear, it was all genuine. Fact 17. The camera movement was inspired by hope. Darabont and Roger Deakins created a visual style that slowly evolved as the story progressed. Early scenes are claustrophobic, narrow angles, low lighting, but as Andy's hope grows, the camera begins to move more freely. By the end, when Andy stands in the rain, the frame opens wide, light floods in, and movement becomes fluid. It's visual storytelling at its finest, showing emotional transformation through motion and light rather than words. You might not consciously notice it, but your heart does. Fact 18. The library was built from scratch. The prison's massive library, one of the film's most memorable sets, didn't actually exist in the real prison. It was built from scratch inside an unused room. Over 2,000 old books were donated or borrowed to fill the shelves. Robbins, who was passionate about education, spent hours on set reading during breaks. Crew members later said that the library scenes carried a strange serenity, as if time slowed down there, mirroring Andy's own calm resilience. The library wasn't just a set, it was a symbol of hope, learning, and inner freedom, the heart of Shawshank itself. Fact 19. The film's soundtrack was nearly cut. One of the film's most magical scenes is when Andy plays The Marriage of Figaro over the prison loudspeakers. The music stops everyone in their tracks, but Warner Brothers almost cut that scene due to high licensing costs. Darabont fought to keep it, arguing that the music was the film's soul. He even threatened to reduce his own salary to cover the fee. Eventually, the studio relented. That single piece of opera became one of the film's most unforgettable moments, a song of freedom echoing through the walls of despair. Fact 20. It changed lives forever. For many people, including former inmates, The Shawshank Redemption became more than just a movie. Prisoners wrote letters to the filmmakers saying the story gave them hope. Psychologists used it in therapy sessions about perseverance and redemption. Even Morgan Freeman once said that fans often tell him the film saved their lives.
It became a universal metaphor for surviving the impossible, for crawling through the dark and finding light again. From a forgotten box office flop to the most beloved film of all time, The Shawshank Redemption proved that hope is not just a theme, it's a force. 3 decades later, The Shawshank Redemption still feels timeless. It's a story about friendship, faith, and quiet rebellion against despair. But behind that calm exterior lies a journey filled with mistakes, miracles, and strange coincidences, the kind that only happen when art and destiny collide. Every frame hides a secret, every shadow carries meaning. From maggots and fake sewage to ghostly prisons and a $1 deal with Stephen King, the making of Shawshank is a saga as powerful as the film itself. Maybe that's why it endures, because like Andy Dufresne, this movie refused to die in the dark. It clawed its way through the years, one viewer at a time, until it reached the light of immortality. Which of these facts shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies that shaped cinema.
I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel. A free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain.